Welcome to the Internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, quote, on-demand disliker, unquote, Dunstan, and these are my co-hosts.
Kyle, quote, stop running subsidized Uber, run a real bus, thanks. Holland, and...
Alex lives in Logan now, Fielder. Today on the Blue Line Podcast, we're discussing the imminent death of America's downtowns at the hand of the woke mob. Wait a second.
Ah, yes, the woke mob.
Hey, your script is here.
Oh, you mean the challenges facing some American central cities are nuanced? Shocking.
We will talk the current state of American downtown and what can be done to help them after the news.
Probably without calling, any large group of people or segment of the population a mob. Or...
That's tough to do these days.
Yeah, or we can call everyone a mob.
Your mom is a mob.
A Minecraft mob.
Mob inclusivity. I like that.
Oh, no.
The news.
The news. Okay. Putting on my news voice. Good news for Ottawans today, as the O-Train's troubled Line 1 is expected to run to service after about a month of closure. Alstom and OC Transpo officials have stated that a new maintenance regime, as well as changes to guardrails and tight curves, are expected to keep the system safe and operational going forward. Although it's certainly good to see North America's strangest light metro back in action, the question remains as to whether it will stay that way after years of technical and construction troubles.
Perhaps someday the O-Train will just work all the time, all the way.
Yeah, probably not, but we can dream.
Hey, at least it's not literally on fire.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perk, I guess.
Pick your poison, fires or tunnel collapses.
Or bearings exploding during use.
I don't think I could pick.
No, me neither. News item number 2 comes from Washington, D.C. today, where lawmakers from Washington State have requested $200 million to begin planning and property acquisition for the long-discussed Cascadia high-speed rail line, which would run from Portland to Vancouver, British Columbia. Whether their request will be granted is yet to be seen, but it's a good step forward for a part of the continent known for its commitment to sustainability and public transportation. I'd also like to add that the Washington State Legislature has already allocated $150 million to study this, so they're looking for federal matching, basically.
Damn. Actual infrastructure investments?
Is Vancouver contributing a similar amount looking into it?
I don't think so, and I think that's because 90% of the actual alignment would just be in Washington State, because if you think of the distance, Portland and Vancouver are based both basically on the border of Washington State, so they have to actually build the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I'd be interested to see any alignment maps or anything.
That's what they're spending $350 million on.
That's fair.
I think that I read that it would get them to 35% engineering and an EIS, which is pretty good.
Cool. So that 35% is enough for an EIS?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's very good that they're starting on this now.
Yeah. I would love to see more high-speed rail, and that's a really good corridor for it too.
Yeah.
So this has been the news. Okay, so almost every aspect of American life was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic and its accompanying closures, but no part of our cities were hit harder than downtowns. Even today, more than 3 years after the onset of the plague, pause for laughter,
Haha.
most American central cities have not rebounded to the level of traffic that they saw before the pandemic, and more alarmingly, many no longer appear to be on an upwards trajectory, and look as though activity therein may be permanently depressed, which is bad.
Yeah, we live in a society, and we should probably continue doing so.
Alex, in your opinion, has Logan's downtown gotten better or worse since COVID-19?
Well, I didn't see it before COVID-19, but I would say it's probably about the same, to be honest.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there probably wasn't ever just enormous amounts of foot traffic in Logan downtown.
No, I highly doubt it, and I don't think there's that many jobs compared to Salt Lake's downtown, just in case of area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, vacancy rates are up across the board. As much as 25% of office space is vacant in places like downtown San Francisco and Houston. Take that, Texas narrative, people. And occupancy... Oh, everyone's moving to Texas because it's so much better than California.
Because it's in a different part of the California life cycle, yeah.
Has the exact same problems but different.
Yeah, insert entire episode about housing here.
One day.
I don't want
Yeah.
to get into that, though, because that's just a really good way to get canceled.
Yeah, you told me there was a rebound, though, in the San Francisco office market.
Yeah, there's been like a 10% demand rebound, which is good.
Cool. Once again, we live in a society. We should probably continue doing so for a wide variety of reasons.
I disagree.
I agree.
The societal revolution and its consequences were a disaster for humanity.
Have
Yeah,
we had
what,
enough society for one day?
I've had enough society.
Yeah, what, return to fish or something?
Anarchism, that's the answer.
Yeah, that was definitely part of human
Backyard
evolution.
insulin, okay? I'm telling you, it'll be great.
Gosh.
Kyle seems skeptical.
I'm trying to think of something that we could return to that's not society, and I'm drawing a complete blank.
Hunter-gatherer, except
That's a
we all live
society.
alone.
Oh, also known as dying.
Yes.
Maybe we need society? Question mark.
Yeah, maybe.
I know, I'm going to go with the voluntary human extinction people at, like, the World Institute of whatever.
Oh, great.
That the
Are you like a-
conservatives are always freaking out
Are you a,
about.
like, depopulation person now?
Yeah, I'm a degrowther.
Yeah. Salt Lake Valley is full. We couldn't fit any more people
No.
here. Let's make the people go away. As long as I get to stay here.
Yes.
I'm not people.
True. Okay, and then I gotta briefly explain. I'm gonna say another statistic, but it's gonna sound like the same statistic but different. Occupancy rates in major metros have barely crossed 50% of the pre-pandemic norm. Now, vacancy rate is the amount of office space that is not actively being rented out. Occupancy rates is the amount of office that is rented out that is being used, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if you have a 2-story office building and so many people are like working from home or had gotten laid off that you're only using the bottom floor now.
Yes, exactly. That's a brilliant way to explain it.
Yeah, jeez.
Some cities, however, have bucked the trend and emerged as national leaders. Today, we will look at the state of American downtown, what might be done to help, and most importantly, in the eyes of this podcast, how this has affected our beloved public transportation.
Makes sense. Transportation is pretty good when people are close together.
And we have to
Yeah.
tie it back to our thing.
It is our shtick.
It's not an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so background, as my bullet point says. American downtowns, unlike central city districts in other parts of the world, are primarily composed of office space. In some, particularly office-heavy downtowns, I should say, more than 70% of the total square footage available in the city center, besides parking, is office space.
Goodness. This kind of presents a problem when something happens that suddenly makes not working in the office one of the highest priorities in everybody's lives.
I wonder what that could have been.
And that's a very high percentage, 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
of course,
everything else relies on that, 70%.
Essentially.
Like downtown restaurant scene is just grifting off of people on lunch break.
Yes, I mean,
Seriously.
it's downtown America has been built a very specific way to try and draw in wealth from the suburbs because of, like, everyone wants to kind of act as though, like, you know, this was a bad idea, but this was actually a really good strategy to kind of extract some wealth from the suburbs who had left and, you know, left the central cities with basically no tax base. So this was done very intentionally as a way to like make sure that
The tax base at least visits for a third of the time.
Well, yeah, and I mean, injects money into local businesses as well. So
Yeah. But it turns out you don't need just one solution to having a tax base. You need many. They need to be diversified.
well, yes, but when this strategy was undertaken, it was the only reasonable way to do it. Like, you couldn't have built large-scale downtown residential in the 70s because, crime.
Ooh. It was a different time. The markets were different.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So it was a good idea. But as it turns out, when the pandemic hit, these places immediately became deserted and everyone was working from home. But unlike other aspects of American and social economic life, downtown has never returned to normal most places.
Yeah, there's been partially a long-term work from home shift, or at least a medium-term work from home shift. We'll see how that plays out, which accounts for a lot of office vacancy. And any other factors?
No, that's mostly it.
Yeah, okay, fair.
If you listen to kind of reactionary ghouls, it's crime and homelessness, but
Sure.
cities... I'm gonna have trouble breaking it to people that cities with a lot lower levels of crime than Chicago are doing a lot worse, and cities with a lot higher levels of homelessness lower levels of homelessness than Salt Lake City are doing a lot worse. So
Yeah, that's not really an indicator, and does not really pose much of a problem for commuting to your office job in the financial district.
Yeah, well, if you had more people come into downtown, the crime would be proportionally less. So
Yep.
maybe we can solve it that way.
That's
Simply
actually a valid strategy, especially on mass transit.
throw bodies at the problem.
Yeah, I like that solution.
Anyways, but that's not really a valid argument.
No,
Go outside
I mean-
before trying to make points like that.
I'm sure it is a factor, but the primary factor remains
Yeah.
office be empty.
And
Yeah.
if it's a factor, it's probably more of a factor for everything except commuting to your office job in the financial
That is
district.
probably actually a reasonable conclusion.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, people did not enjoy their soul-crushing 2-hour commutes from the exurbs and would rather work from home.
This is true. Oh, that's another reason America specifically is so bad for this, because the way we've
Well, we'll get into that.
architected our city is...
Yes. Even more interestingly, places that did return to the office were people were downtown for less time than they were before because of hybrid work schedules. Most people who are in the office these days are there for like 3 days a week or 4 days a week, not a full 5 days a week.
As you can see, there's a lot of, and as many people who work in offices would know, there's a lot of pressure to not do the really pissy commute.
Yeah.
Whereas on the other hand, if you look at like the University of Utah, for many students, the costs of going to the campus are lower than the costs of, like, the time and effort and money costs are lower compared to, like, the costs of doing these 45-minute, hour-long commutes, and the benefits are much higher. Whereas in the office situation, lower benefits, higher costs.
Well, you just can't blame people. It makes sense why you wouldn't want to go back, especially if you hate your job.
Yeah, people's
doesn't-
situations are an artifact of, like, decades of housing policy.
Yeah.
Also, when you're driving 2 hours per direction from because this was a pretty surprisingly common commute. You're driving 2 hours from Stockton to San Francisco or whatever. That's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Super commuting should not exist, but it did. And this causes all this nonsense causes a number of problems for cities, which I will outline here. Number one, actual downtown businesses like restaurants, shops, and other such amenities largely rely on the high levels of traffic from office workers to sustain themselves in areas with a much higher cost of doing business. Downtown is expensive. You need a lot more traffic to keep a business open.
Yeah. And that, again, comes back to how downtown offices were a solution to bringing in people to come spend money.
Yeah.
And after that worked, we kind of just rolled with it. Didn't
True.
worry about it too much.
Also, fewer people using public transportation. BART provides a particularly poignant case. Before the pandemic, nearly 200,000 people entered and exited BART in its 4 stations in downtown San Francisco every day. When that traffic dried up, BART was left on shaky financial legs. They only carry about 60,000 people to downtown San Francisco stations these days.
That's like a third.
Yeah.
That's a huge drop.
I
Turns
believe
out-
they're at 42% of pre-pandemic ridership still.
Oof.
And Caltrain and a lot of other commuter rail agencies are even worse.
Turns
So-
out mass transit works better the more people ride it. Same as these restaurants work better the more people can
Ride
eat at
them.
them. Sure. The ride either subway.
Yes. And then public safety. So for all the talk about public safety being the cause of there not being people downtown, it actually may be the effect. Because there are so many less people on downtown streets these days, they are just less likely to feel like a safe place to be,
Yeah,
period.
Yeah, it's the same with being on transit.
Exactly.
exactly.
It's the same with just everything.
Yeah.
Well, I
Safety
don't
in
know
numbers.
if I've ever been more terrified than just like walking alone through the suburbs at night because there's just no one around and I'm just like, oh, great. If someone like does a Ted Bundy van to me, then I am dead.
Contrast that to like all 2 parts of Salt Lake that have a nightlife at like 11 or 12, and you can walk around and legitimately enjoy walking around because there's lots of people, there's lots of stuff going on, maybe even some music.
Yeah, for me, it's like a U-shaped curve. It's like no people, I feel safe. Then very like few people, I'm like, okay, this is scary. Then you get to the other side and you're like, oh, there's a ton of people. I feel safe again. It's
Yeah,
like,
I totally agree.
The like the Fielder curve.
yeah, the fielder curve of perceived safety.
That sounds like an academic paper. We should write that.
We should write that. We should start a think tank and write poorly grounded pro living in a society research.
We could call it McKinsey.
How is that?
Alex got that. McKinsey is a very ghoulish consulting firm that's known for being a ghoulish consulting firm.
Gotcha.
They're pretty evil.
Yeah. Pete Buttigieg worked there if it's any any indicator. Not implying anything about our lovely sec trans, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so having more people just out and about is good for just about everything.
yeah, and not having that is bad.
For just about everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotta pull this up. Hold on. So, the University of Toronto School of Cities has been doing a really cool research study on this where they use cell phone data to compare the number of people in downtowns now to before the pandemic.
Oh, like cell towers?
Yeah, so like however many pings they're getting from people's cell phones to cell towers versus how many pings
Yeah.
they were getting before the pandemic.
Makes
And
sense.
they've aggregated that to figure out how many people are in certain areas that they define as downtown based on zip codes.
Interesting.
I like that. That's clever.
I think the data collection method is pretty clever, at least.
There are some issues. So actually, Kyle is seeming a little reserved about this, and he is correct. There are a couple issues. Notably, the districts that they are defining as downtown for a lot of cities are not exactly perfect. Portland, for example, is very bad and only includes like... You remember that like very CBD area we walked through?
Yeah.
Where like the Portland building was with the big like statue guy and there was no one around?
Yeah.
That is what is defined as downtown in this study, not including like the Pearl District or any of the places that we saw a lot of foot traffic. So there are some issues, but overall it's quite an interesting study.
Cool. So let's go through the top 10.
Top 10. At number 10, the largest city on this list, actually, San Diego, California. 88% of pre-pandemic traffic downtown.
Dang.
Is actually
That's good.
reflected. Yeah, it's very good. It's actually reflected in their transit ridership as well, which is one of the most recovered in the country.
Nice.
Yeah. Number 9, Vice City, Las Vegas, also 88%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good
Yeah.
for them.
Look, after the pandemic, what you really want to do is go gamble and then see a stripper. Yes.
What,
Yep.
what else are you supposed to do with a stimulus check?
Drink.
Quote, every Republican, unquote. Number 8, Honolulu, Hawaii.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know why that one.
You can't do anything else there, really.
Go
You kind of have to go back downtown.
go walk up the mountain or whatever.
Number 7, Columbus, Ohio. So, at 89%, there are like all 5 people that were downtown in Columbus, Ohio before the pandemic are now in Columbus, Ohio again. So that's
Good
pretty
for
good.
them. I hope they're like
Okay.
playing poker or something.
Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah, all 8 people playing poker.
Oh, yeah, they're playing poker. Number 6 is Albuquerque, New Mexico, which we all know that they're cooking meth.
Yeah,
So,
go ABQ.
Jacksonville, Florida, they're riding the Skyway or something, I guess.
All right.
They're at 93%, and so is Albuquerque.
Cool.
Now we get to the 4 cities in the entirety of North America that are doing better than before the pandemic.
El Paso, Texas.
El Paso, Texas, at 107%. Fresno, California.
What, because everybody's moving there because they can't afford anywhere else?
Yeah. That's probably also true of Fresno, is that everyone's moving there from the Bay Area because they can't afford to live there anymore.
And this is why CAHSR is going in the Central Valley.
And number 2 is Bakersfield, California.
Probably for the same reason.
Yes. At
Yeah.
128%. Finish.
Jeez.
And number 1 is Salt Lake City at 138%.
Woohoo.
100.
We're finally number 1 on the list.
We're number 1. We're
It's a big
number 1.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do all these cities that have good numbers, at least according to this study, have in common?
So cities with short commute times, a large number of car commuters, and like exceptionally high numbers of car commuters, I should say, and less dense with
You mean
a newer pattern of residential.
You mean long commutes?
Those are cities that are doing well. Cities
Oh.
with short commutes are doing well. Cities with
Okay, lots of car commuters.
lots of car commuters are doing well.
Interesting.
And cities with less density downtown are doing well, that are more specialized towards entertainment rather than high densities of offices.
Would you describe Salt Lake like that?
Yes.
Yeah?
I
I
mean,
thought Salt Lake would be more office heavy.
if you think about what is downtown, people, like, we have maybe 20,000 downtown office jobs. Like, there are not a ton, but there are a lot of things like City Creek, there's the Gateway, there's a lot of music venues, there's the arena, there's a plentitude of theaters and restaurants, and
Lots of white people things.
even
to
a
go
movie
to.
theater. Or just
And the
people
temple.
things to go see. And the religious
Hey.
factor is actually a significant contributor, probably.
Probably, yeah.
So there's just a lot of non-office attractions downtown that are disproportionate to the amount of office activity that was going on even before the pandemic.
And the
Oh,
city
and
has
the-
also actively done a good job of doubling down on all of this everything but office job stuff.
Well, and the office jobs that are there, it's like the big law firms, right? That kind of have to have an office presence.
Well, and another factor that we have to take into account is that in smaller metropolitan areas, with the exception of Portland, office workers are mostly back in the office because in smaller metros, employers have more leverage over.
Because it's
Over
not as
their
easy
employees.
to just go pick up and get a different job.
Yes.
Interesting.
And now we get to talk about the bottom 10, which is more depressing.
Oh boy. Okay, what is 10th from the bottom?
I'm not doing 10th. We'll do it backwards. Montreal, Quebec. Once again, office heavy, very dense, very old downtown.
11th from the bottom. And then 10th from the bottom is Philadelphia. Rip.
Yeah, figures.
All their jobs going and hiding in the suburbs.
Number 54, or I should say ninth from the bottom, is Vancouver, British Columbia, 46%. Number 8 from the bottom, Seattle, 46% as well. Louisville, 46%. Raleigh, North Carolina, 44%. Toronto, Ontario, quite surprisingly,
Interesting.
42%. Indianapolis, not surprising, 41%. Minneapolis, a little bit surprising given that they've been growing pretty rapidly even post-pandemic,
Yeah.
but that could be mostly because their downtown activity is clustered in the skyways rather than on the streets.
Ah.
So, and then the final two, which everyone loves to talk about in the media, are Portland, Oregon, and San Francisco, California.
Okay, so why do Portland and San Francisco have problems? I can see San Francisco as being obviously obscenely expensive.
Horrible commute
So
times.
people are moving or already live far from San Francisco because they can't afford a short commute.
Horrible commute times, and extremely office dense, and it should be noted, office dense in industries that were particularly vulnerable to the pandemic. What is San Francisco known as a world center of?
Tech.
IT.
So maybe this is only partly the fault of San Francisco's city problems, like, cost of living, and more so they just got unlucky in choosing an industry that just ran away.
Let's put it this way. New York City, which is the closest analog in both terms of cost and how horrible your commute's going to be, is at 75% because they weren't as tech heavy. So
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, tech jobs would be the most likely to stay online anyway, wouldn't they?
yeah, and they've proven to be the most likely to stay online as well.
Yeah.
Although what's interesting is that San Francisco has retained its status as a tech center because a lot of that renewed office energy that we're talking about earlier, that 10% boost in office demand recently, is because of AI.
Ooh. We'll see how long that one lasts.
Yeah, we'll see.
Next bubble. Always gotta have more bubbles.
So, I guess the question remains then, what is to be done?
Give people something to go, a reason to go downtown, because like the number of people who live in and directly around downtown compared to the number of people in the metro area is relatively low. It's generally expensive, and depending on the city, housing stock is often quite limited.
Maybe allow people to live in downtown more easily instead of just having office. Maybe people actually want to live downtown.
Wow, this is why. Yeah, that's very important. Both of those are very good ideas. So the recommendations that the University of Toronto study that also has the rankings has given is number 1, attract industries that need to be in person. Downtowns with higher concentrations of research jobs, medical industry centers, and government institutions have fared better. Cities should be also bringing their own people back downtown. Most cities have their main offices downtown, and a lot of them are still working from home. A notable example of that is Portland, which has basically no one in its massive downtown offices.
Great. Okay, so that's the jobs part of thing.
Right. Number 2, make downtowns for people. Although the downtowns that have recovered the best are largely of the sort that is easiest to get to by car, cities that haven't recovered very well are unlikely to be able to replicate that ease of access, nor should they try. Instead, they need to focus on creating downtowns that cater to people, both those that live there and those who might like to visit. That means pedestrian spaces, a variety of shops and restaurants, cultural and civic amenities, and proactive safety measures.
Yeah, we don't really want the ye olde downtown turns into a ghost town at night concept where you drive an hour, park, do your job, go on lunch break, maybe go to a concert once a month, and then drive home. You want to make downtown an attraction and a nice place to be in and of itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the note of proactive safety measures, we are by no means denying that there are safety issues in many downtowns at this time, but it is not Fox News. Don't listen to them, or it's not that bad. I've been to they love to harp on San Francisco and Portland in particular. I see that on the news every night. Portland, hellscape, San Francisco, dying, doom loop, doom loop, doom loop, doom loop, doom loop.
Please go outside before making these judgments.
Maybe consider going there for a little while. Like, I spent a long time in both of those downtowns the last time I was there, and it wasn't perfect, but it was mostly fine.
Support the tourism economy, too.
And I went downtown in Salt Lake the other week to look for my bike. I ran into a whole bunch of homeless people who were more than happy to help me and ask around and find the bike. Like,
and you're already out going and seeking out the traditionally sketchy
sketch
places
town,
in our big, dangerous city. And you're having a decent experience.
I won't deny, sure, it was sketchy, but the people were nice.
It's not...
It wasn't...
You're not actively in danger.
It's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be, is I guess the point we're trying to make here. Although... Like, once again, not denying that there are public safety issues.
There are.
Which there definitely are.
Just probably not the ones that are being harped on.
But if you hear that about downtowns, go downtown and judge
See
that
for yourself. Yeah.
That is probably the best method, yeah.
Like, I don't know. You don't trust the news on that sort of thing. Just go and look.
Yeah.
You can trust the news when they're reporting facts and numbers and have other people to catch them when they say the wrong numbers sometimes.
And I don't know, maybe avoid the part of towns that people tell you to avoid. That's generally a good idea.
Yeah, that's good advice anywhere. Every city and metro area has a couple of sketchy spots.
Yeah, like, you go to my hometown, everyone's going to be like, you got to be careful in Caldwell. So, anyway. Also, you can, in fact, convert other uses into different uses if the city lets you, which is why some older office spaces, especially of the Class B and C varieties, which are older and worse offices mostly, are being converted into residential. We actually have quite a prominent project here in Salt Lake City of that, with that weird white tower with the square windows on, is that 2nd?
That's South Temple.
Yeah, South Temple. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
And this is very quickly ramping up in a lot of cities that are trying to bring down downtown stock but are already built up.
Ye olde loft apartment or whatever.
Except, yeah. Should be noted that this is hard, expensive, and often yields bad units, but it's probably better to do it than to not do it. But maybe just build on your parking lots before you bother with this.
Yeah, so we're not going to prescribe a specific solution for getting more residential in and around your downtown areas. Just do more residential.
Just do it and do it quickly.
Whatever makes economic sense. Stop making red tape. Make everything permissive zoning.
It's easier to just build it the way it should be the first time instead of retrofitting it, but if it's done right, go for it.
And I guess this varies a lot by locale, too. Like, Salt Lake's best strategy is to build new towers on parking lots.
Which we have many of, versus downtown San Francisco, which has no parking lots.
Whereas there, office conversions
you have to build
might be a lot more economical.
Yeah. So in denser downtowns, you're going to have to do office conversions, but in younger and parking-ridden downtowns, you can build residential a bit easier.
Yeah, so more residential, good. Especially in this housing market. If you build housing anywhere, you'll make money.
In this economy.
Yeah.
The main point is that strategies for downtown recovery can't be gimmicks or one-time large events. There has to be a continuous strategy of making our downtowns more like the places that have shrugged the pandemic off. Year-round cycles of events can help, though, and that's one of the reasons why downtown Salt Lake City has fared so well. So when I say places that have shrugged the pandemic off, I am, of course, referring to Europe. The Europe. Yeah, that's the Europe in French. Where you will notice that large cities like Paris, which is, basically the European equivalent of New York City.
Sure, yeah.
Has 120% of downtown activity. Madrid has 130%. Barcelona, 140%. Rome, I would say Barcelona is the Portland of Europe. Rome, 179%. Berlin, 192%. Even, smaller cities like Birmingham are at 75%. So Europe has largely just kind of shrugged it off in the city center, and people are more downtown than they ever were before. So, to make our downtowns work, maybe we should make it like the places where it didn't die after the pandemic. Japan, Europe, China, wherever else.
That is an excellent idea.
Yeah, maybe our American exceptionalism, maybe we should think about that a bit more and maybe take notes from someone else.
Dial it back a few notches.
Uh,
So, downtowns for people, not just for suburban commuters. And
who are people too.
No, they're not.
Who are people too, and we want to make it easy for them to experience all of society, even though their housing situation puts them at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Closing note, don't fall for the death of downtown narrative being pushed all over by the sensational media. The press has been crying about the death of downtown since the beginning of suburbanization, and it's always found a way to adapt. So work to build a more resilient downtown for your city, and believe that a better future is possible.
Once again, we live in a society. I think we should probably continue to do so instead of living in a whole bunch of bubbles that use way too much
They
water.
want you to live in the pods, quotes, parentheses, suburban houses, close parentheses, and eat the bugs, parentheses, shrimp, close parentheses. So, that's all I got. You guys have anything else you want to talk about?
Go outside.
Go to your downtown. I don't
Experience
care
your
how.
downtown.
They're all cool, mostly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't been to a downtown that I haven't enjoyed at least a little bit yet.
They mostly
so,
just vary in scale. Like, is it 2 blocks of cool, or is it like square miles of cool?
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah. Even Logan is cool. Maybe that's the takeaway.
Downtown Ogden, I've never been to a downtown that I have actively disliked, with the exception of Denver. But
Valid.
I just have a generalized dislike for Denver, so,
Understandable. Yeah.
So, go downtown, get some food, go to the mall. It's fun, it's fine. I live downtown, it's great.
It is great. And advocate for housing that anybody can actually afford. Or, for that matter, any housing, because more housing.
Well, somebody can afford any housing.
Yeah.
So, at least someone can live there.
Yeah, and then
I'm not going to say that downtown is the best place to try and do affordable housing because of land costs.
it's the best place to do housing, and also near downtown, inner neighborhoods.
That is true.
Random old industrial wasteland. Put housing.
Also next to transit. Oh, and when you go downtown, take the train.
Yes, please.
There's something for everyone in downtown. And one of the nice things about Salt Lake is they do seem to be trying to evolve downtown a bit, especially with that Green Loop project they were doing.
Oh, I love the Green Loop. Long live
If
the
they
loop.
could just make that happen
Faster.
for real now, that'd
But
be
they got to do
fantastic.
paperwork.
Yeah.
Oh, they do have to do paperwork. We couldn't just grab a few trees and a few shovels and maybe just go rogue. But
Go rogue, dig up the middle of the street and put in some trees.
I'm going to do Killdozer, but for the gloop.
Great.
Okay,
honestly,
so
might save more lives.
it might. I was considering doing that on State Street the other day when they uncovered the trolley tracks. I know. It's sad.
So many
They
trolley
should have
tracks.
just kept them.
I know. Somebody was suggesting that we should have put tracks on State Street instead of on the corridor that it's on, and I was about to lose my mind, though.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a bad idea.
You've seen how much of a mess Fourth South is.
Would
We
you
don't
like
want
to
that
go
for
2
everywhere.
miles an hour all the way to Draper? Does that sound fun to you?
Yeah. No, it does not.
So, okay, so that's the episode. Before we go, favorite thing to visit downtown, speed round. Me. Santo Taco, corner of 4th and State. They have really good street tacos, and there's a weird little fun cheesecake store like a block from there that you can go to.
One of our several really old, comically long, and comically overstuffed bookstores.
Yeah, Salt Lake Book
Salt
and
Lake
Magazine.
Book and Magazine,
Yeah.
Ken Sanders.
Ken
That's-
Sanders, yeah.
Yeah.
Ken Sanders is moving over by the Leonardo, though.
Yeah, it's taken him a while, though. He said he was going to do it forever ago.
Yeah,
We'll
Is
see.
this
Yeah.
his idea, or does he have a landlord that's pushing it?
I don't know.
Alright.
I think it's the landlord, but
Of course it is.
I mean,
yeah.
it's probably a good thing for that stretch of Second East to be redeveloped.
I mean, on the other hand, you could just put a comically tall building right next to Ken Sanders on the empty lot.
They did across the street.
Well, put another one on the same side of the street. There's an empty lot right there.
Maybe
Yeah.
they can do a cantilever building and have it take up the air lights above
That
Ken
would
Sanders.
actually be a pretty decent
That'd be
idea.
funny.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of the buildings where the first floor is behind the bulk of the building.
You guys have bad architecture takes today.
But it's so much fun to walk in.
Eh.
Yeah, bugger off. Cantilever building over Ken Sanders.
Okay,
hell yeah.
and Alex, your favorite thing to visit?
Well, definitely Ken Sanders. The burger place we went downtown.
Ooh, Riches.
When
Riches.
we met RM Transit. That was really good.
Yeah, that's
But the shows are also just really good down there. The theaters are amazing.
Oh my goodness, there's so many.
I know.
You can't go wrong downtown. Even fashion, well, not Fashion Place. Even City Creek is nice.
City Creek is very nice for a downtown
Yes,
mall, as
they've-
I've discovered. Like, a lot of downtown malls just suck, and City Creek rules.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Go visit downtown. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and to leave us a rating on iTunes and Spotify. If you like what we do here, you can support us on Patreon. Patrons get early access to episodes, exclusive content almost every month, and occasional merch drops, including, for our Frontrunner supporters in the near future, pieces of Salt Lake City Railroad history in the form of sticks that I carved off from streetcar ties at 9th and 9th.
Woohoo.
They will be epoxied, so it'll be cool.
Oh, other thing I love visiting downtown, Memory Grove and City Creek.
Yeah, the
downtown Salt
downtown-
Lake City has some of the best nature in
The
all of the
downtown
valley.
parks are really good.
Yeah. But they
Except-
blow all of the other parks in the whole valley out of the water, except maybe
Pioneer Park.
Dimple Dell.
I like Dimple Dell.
Well, I said they blow all of the other parks out of the water, except maybe Dimple Dell.
Well, and not to mention the farmers
Oh.
market.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, the farmers market is great. That's
Parks are cool when you host events in them.
Like, if you're scared of going to downtown, farmers market is a great introduction.
It is an excellent introduction.
and go with a friend, because then if
Friends are great. No further comment.
yeah, 'cause then if you're nervous, you can cling to them
Sure.
or something. I don't know.
Or
What
something.
what does one do with friends? I wouldn't know. I don't have any.
Oh, my ass.
Kyle says being my friend.
Yeah.
Alex
I'm
says
offended.
being my friend.
You should also be offended, Alex.
I'll friend you.
Oh, no. Got me.
I did. Okay, so do I go first?
Yeah, you want to do front runner?
I'll do Frontrunner. $69.69 per month. Double track, super duper electrified, 90 mile an hour base tunnel to Logan Frontrunner tier. We have Zach Adams and Generic GT, who pledges $35 a month. At regular Frontrunner tier, we have Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, Mike Christensen, and Phobos2390.
At our Redline tier, $5 a month, we have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, DJ
Hi, Will.
Watkins, Eliza Kensler, Jacob Whitecotton, Jesse Mayo, Reluctant LA Resident, Robert P. Walsh, and Scott Harris.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
At our blue line tier, $3, we have Alex Dykelski, Ben Busath, Bradley Bondi, Ethan McDonald, Evelyn, G4, Gonza12, Jack Dean, John Heron Gorman, Martine Hecker Martinez, Matt Gray, Seth, and Zach Verstott.
And in our final grind tier, we have Cap Hill.
Grinding in the moonlight.
Thank you all for being our patrons. And
Yeah.
in exciting Redline future stuff, we'll have an OGX explainer / vlog video out pretty soon since it's open now. I'm doing a video on... this is a longer term project, so don't get too excited about this one. I'm doing a video about how suburbanization changed the nature of American Christianity. And, yeah, that's my future plans. Metro coming summer of 2027.
Sounds good. Well, it certainly changed the nature of church building architecture.
Oh, well, that is certainly one of the
You
ways
haven't
in which
noticed
it
around
changed
here.
it. So that's all I got. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
got
thank
anything
you.
else, Alex?
Oh, I have something to plug.
What are we plugging?
I'm on a new podcast. It's
Oh,
called
boy.
Daughters of Ferrix. It'll be coming out as of recording tomorrow. It's Star Wars and politics, two things that I like. So listen to that.
Nerd. How long's the first episode? 5 hours?
It's going to be like an hour and 15. So
Nice.
my friend is very
Sweet.
talented at editing.
That's good. Nerd.
Well, yeah, I have nothing to plug, so
Okay, follow us on Twitter. Bye.
Not gonna plug the concept of Logan or anything?
maybe
Nah.
later.
Unplug the mountain.
Yeah.